On 5 News tonight, the British victims of the Italian earthquake, the mistakes that cost a little boy his life, and a major police search after an apparent child abduction. "14-year-old Marcus Burnett was on holiday with his parents and sister when the Italian earthquake struck. Will Henneke Gottlieb and his wife Maria also died. The two families were staying together. Also, an optometrist is given a suspended prison sentence after making mistakes that cost a little boy his life. A major police operation is underway to find a van like this one after a child was witnessed being bundled into the back of it. Also tonight, we're talking about France's so-called burkini ban. A court has suspended the controversial law against full-body swimsuits for Muslim women. We're debating whether that's the right move. And spinning with delight, double gold medal gymnast Max Whitlock talks to 5 News tonight about the secret of his success. Good evening, welcome to 5 News tonight. I'm Matt Barbett. A schoolboy has been confirmed as one of the 3 Britons known to have been killed by Wednesday's devastating earthquake in central Italy. 14-year-old Marcus Burnett was with his family and their friends in a holiday cottage that collapsed near the town of Amatrice. His parents and his sister survived, but the British couple they were staying with also died. In fact, 268 people are now confirmed dead across the region, where the Italian government has declared a state of emergency. From there, Julian Drucker has the latest.
The front of their secluded holiday home looks remarkably intact, but behind the facade, little else remains. The back of the building shows how the quake cruelly tore through property and people. Inside, 14-year-old Marcus Burnett was sleeping. He perished while his parents and sister survived. They were friends of the apartment's owners, Maria and William Henneke Gottlieb. The couple from South London were today described by their neighbours back home as warm and friendly. This was the home from home they would return to every summer. Their 2 children somehow survived. The quake area has now been declared a state of emergency by Italy's Prime Minister, but everyday life continues within it. This man was begging emergency workers to be let back in his home. It seems remarkable he ever got out. Giovanni's family home of 65 years is barely standing. "It's a strong feeling to describe. I heard a bang," he said. "The wall collapsed and then I thought I would never get out. I saw the living room light up and I realised it was the light from outside. There was no wall. We ran out, luckily with my wife and children. Being alive is blessed." Then, for his own safety, Giovanni was escorted away from the area. The damage here looks more like an act of war than an act of God. That strong aftershock just a few hours ago has left this structure perilously close to complete collapse. Looting is another danger now facing this town. So in Accumuli and the other besieged areas, residents are questioned and accompanied back to their homes. The man in white, whose apartment it is, directs the team to his prized possessions. We watched as they rummaged the wreckage before they brought out the printer he needed from inside.
Yeah.
Sabatino can't return to his home either, after half of it was wiped out. He told me the quake was something unpredictable. It was so big. Everything happened, he said. It's unbelievable. It's going to take a long time before we get out of this. How do we rebuild? The quake's ferocity has toppled plinths and left long-standing statues, fallen heroes. With the search and rescue now over, can this area ever restore the grandeur which once stood here?
Julian Drucker reporting from central Italy. Here, detectives are making an urgent appeal for new witnesses after claims that a young child had been snatched off the street in Surrey. One witness says he saw the child being bundled into the back of a black van in Redhill yesterday afternoon. So far, though, no one has reported anyone missing. Simon Viger's in Redhill for us now. Simon, what are police saying about this exactly?
Well, there are two theories, Matt. Either it was a genuine abduction or it was a genuine parent who was angry with their child who bundled them into the back of their vehicle. But as you say, no child, locally or nationally, has been reported missing. It's now 24 hours since the alleged abduction. Police have been leafleting here at Redhill Station, speaking to commuters and locals, trying to jog their memory. The boy is described as white, 6 or 7 years old. He was wearing a red T-shirt with navy jeans. The vehicle was a black VW transporter van with an O2 registration. 3 of the 4 wheels were alloys, and it's that van that they really want to track down to try and work out what happened here. This is what the police are saying tonight.
It's extremely unusual, but given the credibility of the witness and the account that we've had from the witness, I've got no reason, and the investigation has no reason to disbelieve that it is as reported at this stage.
Now, the eyewitness says that the boy was taken against his will, but when I pressed the detective on this, whether there was a struggle or shouting, he wouldn't clarify that, so make of that what you will. But the bottom line is 24 hours of local and national media coverage. No other eyewitnesses have come forward, so it is a mystery.
Simon, many thanks indeed. An army bomb disposal team has been deployed as a precaution in Birmingham after 5 men were arrested on suspicion of terror offences. West Midlands Police say they're being questioned on suspicion of commissioning, preparing or instigating acts of terrorism. They say the searches as well are still going on. There are warnings that NHS bosses are planning to close a number of A&E departments and scale back other vital services across England to help plug a £23 billion black hole. An investigation by the campaign group 38 Degrees uncovered plans that would see major changes to provision in 44 areas. Lifeguards will be provided over the bank holiday weekend at Camber Sands Beach, where 5 men drowned earlier this week. The local council accepted an offer from the RNLI to provide a temporary team of 6 lifeguards. An optometrist has been given a suspended jail term for failing to spot a serious condition in a boy who later died. 8-year-old Vinnie Barker went for a routine examination in Suffolk in 2012, but Honey Rose missed obvious signs of a build-up of fluid behind his eyes. 5 months later, it killed him. From Ipswich Crown Court, Layla Hayes reports.
It's now 4 years since 8-year-old Vinnie Barker died after suffering a fatal build-up of fluid on his brain. Today, the optometrist who caused his death by failing to spot that he had a life-threatening condition came to court to be sentenced after being found guilty of gross negligence manslaughter. The court heard that 5 months before his death, Honey Rose carried out a routine eye examination on Vinnie at this Boots branch in Ipswich.
Honey Rose claimed the eye test was tricky because Vinnie had looked away and closed his eyes during the test. But the judge said that was essentially a cover-up and there was no good reason not to carry out a full and proper examination.
Instead, she failed to look at the back of Vinnie's eyes or at photos that had been taken by a colleague which would have shown that he had a condition called bilateral papilledema, which if left untreated is life-threatening. Today, Vinnie's parents also came to the sentencing. A statement from Vinnie's mother was read out in court. It said, "The void in our lives will never heal. We will struggle to accept our special little boy is not coming home, and the knowledge that his death should have been prevented and he should have been saved is intolerable." Police say this is the first time an optometrist has been found guilty of manslaughter by gross negligence.
Yes, it has been groundbreaking, and that's correct, that as far as we're aware, there has been no other case of this kind. And what we hope that this will do is ensure that the optometry profession review their practices and their policies so that this doesn't happen to anybody else again.
Have you got anything to say to the Barker family, Mrs. Rose? Are you sorry about what happened?
Honey Rose left court saying nothing after receiving a 2-year suspended sentence. Vinnie's family had appealed for leniency because she
The
too
judge
was
said
a
you were
mother.
trying to cover this up,
Vinny was
Mrs. Rose. Do you have
described in
anything to
court
say?
as a happy young boy, and his family were praised for their dignity. Layla Hayes, 5 News, Ipswich.
With me now in the studio is Caroline Hodd, who's an optometrist as well. What's your reaction to this, Caroline?
I think I'm a little surprised that it was taken to a criminal case. Usually when an optometrist makes a mistake, we are brought up in front of the General Optical Council, which is a bit like the General Medical Council for doctors. So I do think it was quite shocking to optometrists what happened today.
Do you think people appreciate how optometrists are medical professionals? They're there to look out for signs of other illnesses, not just check your eyesight.
Well, we definitely act as a sort of primary health screeners for eyes, and we screen all of our patients for eye conditions, and also we look out for signs of systemic medical conditions. It is difficult to find the abnormal people amongst a sea of normal people who may have similar symptoms, but if we're given enough time for our examinations, we should be able to spot things, and also if we make correct notes, we should be able to cover ourselves if there's any problem.
And I know you've never seen anything the like of which caused, unfortunately, young Vinny's death, but that kind of thing would ordinarily leap out at you if you're looking in someone's eyes.
Absolutely, that's the number one thing that should shine out at you. And that's a medical emergency, and you would refer that person straight away.
Even so, look, I know you have sympathy, as we all do, for Vinny and his family. Do you have any sympathy at all for the optometrist involved?
I feel that she should have had the chance to come up in front of the General Optical Council. I feel some sympathy because we do have time pressure during our examinations, but this was a mistake that she should have picked up on, and she should have done better.
Okay, and now that she's obviously been given a criminal conviction for manslaughter here, do you feel under more pressure as a result to get it right? Obviously you do, but does it increase the pressure on you?
I think it does increase the pressure, and as long as you make correct notes, you should be okay. However, if I referred every single person who had some suspicious signs, I would fill up the hospitals with patients, and it's up to my clinical judgment to decide who to refer and who not to refer.
Okay, Caroline, many thanks indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Still to come on the programme. The controversy that's raging in France. Now, a court suspends a town's ban on so-called burkinis. And after his incredible Olympic success, the children waiting to give Max Whitlock an emotional homecoming.
Can you do forward rolls?
Yes.
Can you do cartwheels?
No.
Can you walk on the beam?
Yeah.
Well, you're pretty good then, aren't you?
Yeah.
Max can do all of those. Hear from him in the studio after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News Tonight. France's most senior court has effectively overturned a ban that stopped women from wearing clothing known as bikinis on the country's beaches. The ban had caused widespread controversy after pictures showed officers forcing a woman to remove the full-body garments. Judges said it had dealt a serious blow to France's fundamental liberties, as Dominic Reynolds reports.
You might well have seen this photo of the debate dividing France. A woman at the beach forced by armed police to remove a full-body veil. Does her burkini inflame religious tensions, or should she be free to dress as she chooses? Now a French court has overturned one town's ban on the burkini, a victory for human rights groups who are fighting it. This is a legal response, he says, saying that as our law stands, as our fundamental freedoms in France stand, we can't let a mayor decide by himself to ban the wearing of religious symbols. It was after last month's Bastille Day attacks in Nice that local bans on burkinis started to spread across southern France. There are now more than 30. But it's caused uncomfortable scenes like this, apparently filmed on a beach in Nice, a woman in a veil spoken to by police. In another video, you can hear a policeman warning a woman in a veil that others have had stones thrown at them. But here's the ban's most high-profile supporter, Nicolas Sarkozy. He wants to be president again, and he wants the ban to become French law.
Je refuse.
Yesterday he was applauded as he said, "I refuse for women to be veiled at school, at university, in public services, in offices. I refuse the burkini on the beaches of France." The French Republic is built on the idea that religion and the state are separate. This debate is testing that separation, and all at a time when tensions over terror couldn't be higher. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
With me now is Esmat Girage, who organised a demonstration outside the French embassy this week in protest against the so-called anti-burkini law. And also with me is Anglo-French journalist and commentator Bénédicte Pavillot, who works for France 24. Esmat, clearly you think this is the right decision.
Very much so. When we heard of the ban, and particularly when we saw the images of the woman in Nice who was ordered to remove her clothing, for us it kind of just compounded the fact that the ban came across very misogynistic and Islamophobic. The idea that anyone should be telling a woman how to dress or what to wear, what she shouldn't wear, is absurd. And
Bénédicte, this woman being told, well, being seen to remove her clothing on that beach in Nice, it's not a one-off, it's just the one that's drawn everyone's attention to this.
Yes, absolutely. And I understand actually from French officials, she wasn't ordered to take something else. She was actually trying to show, this is the problem with a photograph, when you show that she was wearing a full bodysuit underneath. And when some of the Anglo-Saxon press get terribly exercised and say either in written reports or verbally that this was armed police, well, most French policemen and women are armed, routinely armed, and sadly, because of, particularly in the light of the Nice terrorist attack on the 14th of July and Bastille Day, those kinds of patrols, particularly on beaches around Nice and in Nice, where some women have been fined. And I was looking at the numbers this evening, Matt, and the majority, which is tiny proportion, but about 24 women have been fined 38 euros, about £32, £33. They can actually dispute that now that there is this ruling. They could actually appeal to not have to pay that fine.
You would expect that. Esmat, this happened in Nice. You can imagine the sensitivities in that city in particular, and in France in general, given what's happened around this kind of thing, can't you?
I mean, I can very much understand the very real fear that people in France, people across Europe are experiencing. It's the very same fear that I and scores of Muslims are also experiencing. I think it's very important to note that we're all victims of terror. The challenge here is that Muslims also then face the additional threat of racism and Islamophobia. And when you have bans like this, it suggests that Muslim women in particular are being scapegoated and further marginalised. I think it's interesting as well that you think women wearing the bikini to go onto beaches in France is liberating. Explain that. Yes, very much so. They choose to wear this, and it allows them to fully participate in sports, to sit on the beach and swim in the water with their family and their loved ones. Because that's the thing, isn't it? It's a choice issue, and it's part of a bigger issue. We probably don't have time to discuss it here, but they choose to wear it, whereas the perception amongst some is that it's not their choice to wear it. Exactly, and I think what we're missing in this debate is we're not actually going out there and speaking to the women themselves to find out whether or not it's a choice or if it's been forced upon them. Bénédicte, the overturning of this law, does that say something about France's ideal of égalité, fraternité and liberté?
Well, it shows that there is freedom and that there is a free judicial system. I think the very important thing to point out is that these are temporary bans, so particularly in the months of August, I think until about September, mid-September, they can be renewed. Certainly one mayor who's going to be renewed, he's made it very clear this afternoon, is the mayor from the Front National of Fréjus, and he has planned to continue it. But we're talking about a very small number of women, and also it's very important to point out, for the moment it was in 30 towns. Yes. It's one that's been banned, and of course this seemingly some mayors will choose to obey it because it is jurisprudential. And what will happen is there is no national law against the burkini. However, as we're in the run-up to presidential election next May, Nicolas Sarkozy, the former Conservative president, has, as recently as last night, I haven't seen a reaction from him this afternoon yet, but he wants a law banning the burkini. I'm afraid we've run out of time there, but thank you both very much indeed for coming in. It will run and run. No doubt about it. Now, something else running and running. Brazilian police are pressing charges against American swimmer Ryan Lochte after he made up a story about being robbed at gunpoint.
The gold medalist and 3 of his teammates had in fact been stopped by security guards for vandalising a petrol station. He flew out of Brazil, you remember, before he could be questioned by police there. And a judge in South Africa has dismissed an appeal to increase the jail sentence of Oscar Pistorius. State prosecutors had argued his 6-year term for murdering Reeva Steenkamp was too lenient. The state can still appeal that ruling. He was one of the undoubted stars of the Olympics, twisting, twirling and bounding his way to 2 gold medals in the space of just a couple of hours. And now Max Whitlock is back here and he's determined to reap the rewards of Rio. Speaking to 5 News, Team GB's Golden Boy has told how membership at his local gym has now soared and he is determined to inspire youngsters to follow in his agile footsteps. Ruth Liptrot went to meet him.
With 2 gold medals under his belt, it's not surprising that any kid who knows the parallel bars from the pommel horse wants to be Max Whitlock. And who's to say that this little guy might not be the one to do it? He's certainly in the right place. The South Essex Gymnastics Club, home not only to Max, but team member Bryn Bevan and Team GB coach Scott Hann. And tonight, the club will be hosting a welcome home party for their stars.
It'll be amazing. I've been looking forward to it ever since we stepped off that plane. You know, to go back to my club who have supported me the whole way. This whole journey has been incredible.
So what does it feel like to be inspiring the next generation?
I've had amazing messages on Twitter saying that their son or their daughter has started gymnastics because I've inspired them to do so, which is just crazy. It's been a big target for us to get more people involved in gymnastics, involved in the sport, because I wouldn't change it for the world and I want other people to hopefully join it and hopefully they'll love it as well.
This group are aged between 3 and 4, which is the age you need to start if you want to turn pro. So, in no time at all, the little one on the left could be pulling off moves like this. And the club's already feeling the Olympic effect.
Looking now for September start.
Paula is Bryn Bevan's mum and works in the office here.
Maria, the lady in the office, hasn't stopped, really. The phone doesn't stop ringing. Obviously, more people on the waiting list. It's just immense for the club.
And it's amazing for the kids too.
There may well be a future Olympic champion here, but it's about more than that. This lot are learning physical confidence, they're learning how to be active, and they're having a brilliant time while they're doing it.
Can you do forward rolls?
Yes.
Can you do cartwheels?
No.
Can you walk on the beam?
Yeah.
Well, you're pretty good then, aren't you?
Yeah.
Does it make you really fit and strong? Do you want to show me your muscles? Go on, show me your muscles. Wow, yeah. Do you think you might win an Olympic medal when you're big?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Sure.
Brilliant.
See, confidence is everything in this game, but just look at that technique. It's a matter of time before we see this one on the podium. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News.
Well, you can see Max has certainly got people taking a bit more interest in gymnastics. And a little earlier, I spoke to him about asking him here in the studio what it felt like to win 2 gold medals, well, in a matter of minutes.
It was incredible, hard to describe, to be honest. Hard to really put into words. I mean, the first one was just crazy. I wasn't watching anything, especially on floor. I was just so unexpected. It was just such a surprise. I wasn't watching any routines or anything, and my coach was like, Max, do you want to know what's going on? I was like, no, please. I'm just sort of in my zone. And it would finish, he nudged me and said, Max, you're Olympic champion. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And then we sort of had to refocus, step back and sort of go back in the world gym and literally forget about that gold medal. I had one more job to do and I didn't want to let that go to waste with what happened there.
We see how strong you are physically, but when you talk about having to forget one gold medal to go and win another one, that's mental strength, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you practice that as well?
It's hard to practice that, really, because obviously it was so unexpected. That was my first floor final even, let alone the Olympic medals. So I just literally, my mindset was, we'd come in here with a plan and me and Scott had to stick to it. It was floor and pommel. I had one more job to do, like I said, and I just had to go for it. I had to go there, enjoy it, and I loved every minute of it.
Why do you think it did come all together on that day in particular? What are the reasons for it working out so well?
Lucky, floor and pommel, my strongest 2 pieces, and obviously making those finals on that day. So it was all about sort of that day was my last day of competing for me. So for me, like I said, my mindset was going in, enjoying the experience, and I have to go all out. There's no holding back here, really. do what I've been doing in training. You've got 50 seconds to show that. And it pulled off, and, you know, just sitting here now feeling a bit weird, like it feels a bit surreal.
We had Holly Webb sitting where you're sitting last night from the Team GB women's hockey team, and she took the winning penalty to win the gold. Now, they competed from the first day of the Olympics almost to the last, and the atmosphere around Team GB was snowballing, and it inspired them to really push on and win that gold. Was it the same for you?
100%, yeah, 100%. You know, when the medals started rolling in, it is exactly that. I'm a big believer that success breeds success, and I think it done that in a way in the Olympic Games. You know, it makes people believe what's possible. And then when you start seeing, you come back to the village and there's stickers of the names of people that are getting a medal, and it was like you come back and there's 5 more and there's 6 more, and it's just unbelievable. It was totting up, and
it gave you a lift.
Yeah, massively. It made everyone want one of these like even more.
And what it also does, Max, it inspires the next generation. I mean, that is a phrase that's bandied around quite a lot, but we have seen ourselves, 5 News, just how much of an effect it's had on the children, the young people trained to be gymnasts at your home gym. How does that make you feel?
Crazy. You know, that's one part that we wanted to do. Back 4 years, it was about inspiring people. We wanted to get people into gymnastics, and I think we've done that.
Well, now, the next thing for you, by and large, is, well, you've got to get married because you're engaged to Leah, who's also a gymnastics coach. But beyond getting married, are you going to focus on Tokyo in 2020?
100%, yeah. I'm not done yet. I'll take a rest now, of course, but I'll be looking forward, hopefully fully recovered, fully well and fresh to go back in starting next year.
Now, look, we've seen all over your social media feed, you've been doing stunts and handstands and all sorts of springs and all sorts of things all over London and the UK. It'd be rude not to ask you to show us what you're capable of. So please, take our floor. It's not quite Rio standard, Max, but
it's great.
Why don't you give us your best handstand? I'll give you some marks out of 6. Pretty good. I think that's worth a 6. And off he goes. Max, many thanks indeed. I'll look after these medals for you. Brilliant stuff. Well, that's just about it from us for the time being. Kirsty is here with the weather next. Have a good bank holiday. See you again next week. Bye-bye.